Hey, what's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome back. It's been a while. It's been a little bit of time in between. Glad to have everyone back. Good to see y'all. What's going on, everybody? Holding it together. Okay, I feel you. A whole week. Yeah, it's been a week. Excited to have y'all back. Excited to learn some CSS. Ready to get it going. Mansa, I missed you too. Glad you're back. Alrighty, the question of the day is, would you rather invent a new gadget or discover a new species? Throw that in Twitch chat. I'm curious. We're seeing a lot of I guess it's like we're learning to code. The gadget like is going to be the big one here. I definitely see that one winning out right now. I think I would want to do a new species. Although, like, you know what, like there are like millions and millions of species that haven't been discovered, right? So it's like, it's not that special, but like a gadget could be more special. I don't know. I still think I still feel the species. I think that's what I'm looking for. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Just going to give folks a few seconds to get in here, a few seconds to get situated. If you need the slides for tonight, you can always do !slides to get the current slides. Remember, if you don't like them auto advancing as I advance, you can always chop off the /live. If you haven't downloaded the materials, go ahead and download the materials for today. Join our Discord, !Discord will give you access to our Discord. Once you're there, agree to the rules and you'll see all the channels open up, and the follow along materials channel is what you are looking for. So I'm going to kind of switch over to Little Leon, bring up the question slide. Let's give folks a minute or two to get in here. And while we're waiting, I'll answer your questions. So if you have questions, throw them in chat. Happy to answer them. Excited to have you all back. I missed you. I'm glad you're here. Anonymous, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. Let me pull up Little Leon here. Questions. All right. I know, and there's always a couple anonymous a stream that are donating the subs. I appreciate y'all. Once again, subbing, donating, cheering, all that's not necessary. If you do, it all goes to a donation to Resilient Coders, the free nonprofit bootcamp I teach at during the day. Alrighty. Yeah, I wonder if they're the same person. I don't get anything extra on my side. I just see anonymous. Maya said, busy Leon, how you holding up? I had a really fun but rough weekend. I'm kind of picking up steam again. I'm excited to kind of feeling back to normal again, and excited to be here all with y'all tonight and learning some CSS, get our fingers going. So I'm doing good now. Yeah, I'm doing good. Hey Leon, how come we have to learn floats? Are they still used in real world projects? Yes. A lot of older projects or projects that you're going to run across in the wild are going to use floats. So it sucked to join a team that's a little bit behind when it comes to their CSS and not have any idea how to use it. So we teach floats to start, and then we move into Flexbox and Grid, and we'll spend way more time with Flexbox and Grid this run through than we have in the past. I just want y'all to be prepared. So if you join a team that's not kind of keeping up to the current standard, I don't want you to be completely lost, and so that's why we start with floats. I also think floats are, I think for some folks, it can be an interesting learning tool to wrap their mind around layout. I don't like I like them. I don't use them professionally anymore, but I've seen them be a good tool for folks when they're first learning. Is it worth to learn Vim? It's up to you. Text editor is a personal preference. A lot of my friends that are pretty fast and efficient use Vim. I like to use editors I feel comfortable with. I've used Vim professionally in the past. I've tried Emacs. I used Atom. I've tried them all. It just comes down to personal preference, and if you can speed up your workflow, that's always a bonus too. In the beginning, just stick to one editor. Don't waste time jumping around and trying a bunch. Just when you're beginning, focus on learning to code, and then you can optimize your workflow later on. Floats go straight to my hips. All right. Welcome back, folks. Giving folks a second to get in here. we could use some help using the Atom editor. Tons of errors. I don't know how to manage to use it. How you manage to use it? Laugh out loud. I never have any problems with Atom. I almost never run into any bugs or errors. If you're having trouble, don't feel like you have to stick to it. Feel free to pop around to something else. Feel free to use VS Code. That's really popular. Yeah, so I don't run into any problems, but if you are, don't do it because I say so or because I use it. Do it works well for you. Yeah, cool. Come on, folks, get in here. If you haven't already downloaded the materials, go ahead and download the materials. If you haven't gotten the slides, go ahead and grab the slides. And we're going to get started in a few seconds. Bruce, hello from Los Angeles, California. Glad you're joining in from Brazil. That's awesome. Cool. What are we drinking tonight? Oops, my bad, brah. I got some delicious ice cold water. There we go. Ice cold water. Oh yeah, don't forget your bingo, folks. Exclamation point bingo if you want to follow along. Liquid Words, thank you for the gifted sub. I appreciate that. And Kat with the hydrate. She saw that it was water and it was all in. Cheers to you. Thank you, Kat. Alrighty, folks. Let's go over what we're going to cover this evening. I'm going to switch over to kind of the topics in the agenda. So we did questions. And so we'll leave a little time for more questions later on too. And remember, when we take our breaks, I'm happy to answer questions as well. We're going to do a little bit of review. Always want to review get some spaced repetition in. We're going to talk a little bit about client server model again. We're going to talk about progressive enhancement again. And then we're going to learn the fundamentals of CSS tonight. So we're going to cover all the fundamental topics so we start feeling comfortable adding style to the HTML that we've written. We are going to learn about parent-child selectors. We're going to hint at classes and IDs. We're not going to use them just yet. We're going to hint at them. We're going to learn about specificity. And then your lab this evening will be to do a simple site. Take Top Tiger, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. All right, everybody, get in, get loose. Let's get into it, folks. Ooh, a hype train. Dominic13, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Or Dumic13, appreciate you. Alrighty. A few housekeeping issues. I'm going to turn off the music now. There we go. Go ahead, and if you haven't yet, you should be submitting your work. So the way you're going to submit your work for right now is through Google Form. As we progress further into the course, we'll switch to GitHub and submitting all of our stuff via GitHub. Oh, Rossi, thank you for the cheers. I appreciate that. But for now, take your HTML, place it in a CodePen. A CodePen is just an online text editor that'll give you a URL. Then you're going to submit that URL via the Google form that's linked here. It's also linked in Discord. And then that's how I'm going to see that you submitted your homework for this evening. Thank you for the all the cheers. I appreciate that. Secure, Alyssa, appreciate you. And we got to hydrate on the low. Cheers to you. Thank you. Bookaboo, thank you for the cheers. I appreciate it. All right, y'all popping off. Alrighty. Will it be graded? No, but I will give you the solution so you can self-grade. So most of the work, once we get further along, I'll be grading some of this stuff. But early on, it's simple. You'll get the solutions. You can compare them to your own. Jeff N, hey, thank you for the sub. And so for now, don't worry about it. As we get further on, there'll be stuff that will be auto-graded. There'll be some stuff that I will be grading. But for a lot of the early stuff that's kind of just simple HTML and CSS, God dang it. Why is that even a thing? That was closed. Yeah, you saw my problem. Borg, thank you for the hydrate. Cheers to you. That's my browser just for tabs. Like I have a browser that's just like tabs. It's just like stuff I want to go back and read. Yeah, it's a problem. Thank you for all the cheers, folks. I appreciate it. The one I use is called, what is it called? What is this thing called? The Great Suspender. The Great Suspender is what I use for my tabs. What the Great Suspender does is it stops your tabs from utilizing resources. So you can have as many open as you want. It doesn't slow your computer down. So yeah, the Great Suspender is what I use for that. All right. So go ahead, put your HTML into a CodePen, submit it via that URL, and then I will release the solution so you can compare yours. We'll also have like a channel for folks that want to get feedback on their work early on. And like I said, as we progress and the numbers dwindle a little bit, there will be auto-graded stuff, and then there will be stuff that I'll be taking personally look at. If you're in touring, as we get further along, there'll be a lot of like personal stuff like the resume reviews, portfolio reviews, et cetera, et cetera. Cool. Alrighty, folks. Some things I want to talk about real quick, kind of hot topics or hot issues, you might say. One thing that we talked very briefly about, but I wanted to bring it up, just having talked to some folks over the past couple of days, and that is typing. You should do a typing test. In fact, part of your homework is to do a typing test. Sheena, thank you for the cheers. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is to do the typingtest.com 5-minute test. You want to see where you're at. Most of my boot campers, I tell them that you want to get to about 60 words per minute with very minimal errors as quickly as possible. And so if you're really far off, know that it's something that you need to work on. Okay. I love Keyboard. Keyboard is my favorite typing app. I switched to my Kinesis keyboard, and that's what kind of got me back up to my original speed. So do the typingtest.com. It's in the follow-on materials for today. See where you're at, have a baseline, and know that you want to be working towards around 60 words per minute. As a software engineer, you get paid to do this a lot, to type a lot. And I tried finding it, but I couldn't find it. There was this really good Hacker News like chain of posts that was talking about like what is an easy win for a new developer. Like what's an easy win that's going to help you stand out on the job? What's an easy win that's going to help you to do well very quickly on the job? And one of the things that came up over and over again in that thread was to type fast, right? If you have somebody that knows more but types really slow versus someone that knows enough but types really fast, you're going to go to that person that types really fast because you can get your answers quicker. And so it's just something to keep in mind. We're all going to get paid to type really fast. And so it might be worthwhile. Well, it is worthwhile to pay attention to it, get up to speed. Okay. I'm by no means the best typer. It's something that I've had to work on. I've never been a good typer, but since I switched to my new keyboard, I'm getting better and better. But I've noticed that there's this disconnect that happens. If you're focused on typing, you're not really focused on the code. So if you're still doing some of these and you have to like look at the keyboard to find the keys, that focus that you're putting into like typing is focus that could be going towards you learning to code, right? And so keep that in mind. You want to kind of put some time into it. Ches, please, with the posture check already. I'll take it. All right. Get myself situated here. On my new keyboard, I'm like at 80 right now. When I'm like in the zone. For some reason, when I'm on stream, I have a horrible time typing. I get like nervous and I miss my keys and I got to look. It's really weird. I like day to day, I don't have any trouble. Pretty fast, not as fast as a lot of folks I know. But once I get on stream, my typing actually kind of goes to shit. I'm not going to lie. But I try to pull it out for y'all. Cool. But yeah, 60 is like good. 60 is like good. And so if you can get to 60, you're good. And at 60, I notice is like when you're no longer focused on like how you're typing and you can focus fully on the coding problem. So, take your time. It's something that if you need to, you're going to work up over the course of the entire boot camp, but know where you stand. Okay. Don't do it right now. You can do it after class. Yeah. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly before we kind of jump into the lecture today, I kind of want to do it now. Should we do it? Should we just go ahead and put it on there? Nah, we'll save that for later. That way folks that are kind of joining in now don't get lost by what we're doing. We'll do it after class. Do it after class. All right. Other thing I wanted to talk about is reading. I had some folks kind of reach out. They're like, Leon, what's with all the reading? And it's something you're going to see that comes up over and over again. When you're a developer, there probably won't be a fancy tutorial. There probably won't be a YouTube video. There probably won't be a lot of these other mediums for the things that you have to learn. A lot of times it's going to be some really poorly written documentation in a markdown file on GitHub, and that's all you get. Right? And so as hard as it is in the beginning, especially if you haven't done a lot of reading, a lot of technical reading in the past, as hard as it is in the beginning, it's really worthwhile to flex those muscles so that by the time you're kind of towards the end of program, you're getting ready to join a new team, you're already able to get up to speed very quickly through written text, right? And so it does, I promise you, get easier the more you do it. And so you're going to notice that a lot of my resources early on are text heavy. There are great videos. I could be purposely giving you wonderful videos. But the idea of like mucking through text and getting good at it is a skill. And it's a very important skill when it comes to being a software engineer. And so early on, I know I'm going to give you some other material, some other things as we start to get stuck, but know that you're in for a lot of reading and it's something you have to get good at. Okay. So just something to keep in mind. I'm doing it because I've seen it pay off a lot for my other students, right? So there will be a lot of reading, and you have to utilize the strategies we've talked about in the classes prior to make sure that you're absorbing all the material that you're reading. The active recall, the spaced repetition, super important. Peter, you have to embrace the suck. I love it. Who's going to carry the boats and the logs? All right. Somebody say sus. All right. A couple other things I want to talk about real quick. Deep, not wide. When you're first starting out learning to code, the really popular thing that happens to a lot of folks is they run all over the place. It's like you're a kid on the playground and you're looking at all the shiny objects all over the playground. You're learning HTML, but you want to jump ahead to CSS. Ooh, look at that JavaScript tutorial. Ooh, GitHub. Ooh, maybe I should trick out my VS Code. Maybe I should maybe I should read this book on best coding practices. Right? You're kind of just running all around, trying to like do all these different things. That's called going wide. When you're first starting out, don't do it. Fight that urge. And the reason why you want to fight that urge is because going wide early on leads to burnout pretty quickly. The number of folks that start learning how to code and they go wide really quickly, they burn out. The other thing is you should be going deep because you want to get to a level of mastery. There's a couple learning theories, and there's this one learning theory called mastery-based learning, where you really shouldn't move on to the next topic until you mastered the first. And for anything that we cover, you should be aiming to master that topic before moving on to anything else. So you had a lot of reading. You had to read through Shay Howe. There's a lot of stuff in there, like a lot. You were better off going through that material, engaging honestly with it, pushing yourself, putting it into an actively recalling it, putting it into your spaced repetition tool, and going deep. Do you feel comfortable with the HTML elements that you learned? Do you know the semantic meaning behind the most common HTML elements? There were some things in the reading that were different than what I've told you. Did you come to a conclusion about which is right? right? Remember I said each developer is going to have some of their own opinions. There's no 100% correct thing here. So when you were doing the reading, there are some things that might have contradict what I said during the actual class. So did you engage with that material? Did you go deep? Did you push your understanding of HTML far? Right? That's what you need to do early on. Really try to avoid going super wide. Now, if you're interested in something, you got the time, sure. Don't let me cramp your style. But early on, the thing that can kill a lot of developers where they stand is trying to pick up all the shiny rocks instead of just focusing and hunkering down on one, making sure that your time is going into active recall. Make sure your time is going into spaced repetition instead of chasing GitHub or chasing setting up VS Code with all the bells and whistles, right? Dig in on the things that are important, go deep in the things that are important, and there'll be plenty of time to learn other things. Okay. So just be careful. It's something that I've seen with some students that when they're first starting out, they run around too much, deep, not wide. All right. And for the love that is all that is holy, please be using some sort of spaced repetition. If you did all that reading, and you did not actively recall and you did not put your reading into some sort of spaced repetition tool, that was a waste. That was a waste. If you put in the work, right? And everyone here, right? Everyone here knows whether or not they did the work. If you did the work and you didn't actively recall as you were doing it and you didn't put it into a spaced repetition tool like Anki, you messed up. That was a waste. And the reason why it's a waste is because there's a really strong chance that you will forget everything that you just learned. That hard weekend of reading that you put in might have been for naught. Right? So we're here to ease into this. For a lot of folks, it's been a while since we've actually had to push our brain to learn a lot of new material, and that's okay. If you messed up and you didn't do your active recall, you didn't do your spaced repetition, this slide's for you. Come on back. As you do the next set of reading, as you do the next bit of work, right? Make sure that you're putting these systems in place that are going to help you be successful. Okay. All right. Also, in the materials for today, I asked you to watch a video by Dr. Eric Thomas. Highly encourage you watch it. We're going to talk about it next class, but it's a good dose of motivation. So if you didn't get the chance to watch it before class, definitely watch it after. And we're going to talk a little bit about it at the beginning of next class. Okay. Alrighty. Let's get into it, folks. Are we ready? Let's get into it. All right. Chat. What's the internet? You tell me, chat. What's the internet? Elicited off the jump. Dominoes. Ready with the highlight. I love it. It was awesome with the highlight. Wires, information, tubes, pizza, cats, a wire in the ocean. I love it. Some of these ones are hilarious. Yes, these are all correct. When we're talking about the internet, we're talking about two different kinds of devices. We're talking about client-side devices that we use to make requests, whether it be our phone, our desktops, our laptops, our coffee machines. Those devices make requests to other computers out there on that wire called a server. The server's listening, hears those requests, and responds with different types of information. It's going to respond with HTML files, CSS files, images, JavaScript files, and all that information finds its way back to the client-side device. That client-side device typically has a program on it called a browser, and that browser can render all of those files to see the websites and web applications that we are going to build. Okay. So network of computers, client side, server side. And so far we've learned about HTML, and we're going to continue along on this client side adventure. And today we're going to add CSS. Cool. Now remember, golden rule, separation of concerns. If you don't remember anything, this is the thing you need to remember. Your HTML should just be your content. Your CSS should just be your style, and your JavaScript should just be your behavior and interaction. Why, chat? Why is this important? Sheenan, this was in your space repetition. I love it. Yeah, organization. And it's organization for yourself, and it's organization for a team that you might join. So when you're writing some of your code and you come back 2 months later and you want to make something wiggle, right? When you come back to your code 2 months later and you want to make something wiggle when you click on it, where are you going to go? Ooh, a Rossi first. Pork second. I love it. You're going to go to your JavaScript. If I want to add a new newspaper article, a new bit of content, where am I going to go? Kind of gave that one away. Yep, my HTML. And if I want to make something bright blue, where am I going to go? Bright blue. I don't even know what bright blue would look like. Maybe. Yeah, we're going to go to CSS. We're going to go to CSS. Cool. So we've only been on the job for 2 classes, and we already know how to work as engineers on a front-end development team, right? We know that if we want to build content, it's going to go in our HTML. If we want to build style, it's going to go in our CSS. And if we want to add behavior and interaction, it's going to go in our JavaScript. Boom. Alrighty. There's this idea that we learned about called progressive enhancement. And the idea behind progressive enhancement is that the core of your site should be the content. And then wrapped around that content is a thin layer of chocolatey goodness, which is your presentation. And then around that whole thing is a thin candy coating, which would be our JavaScript. And the idea here is that if we focus on the content being the core, individuals that may not have things like high-speed internet access can still have a phenomenal experience. We saw sites like light.cnn where they're making a site that's just HTML and a little bit of CSS because they realize that there are still large contingents of folks that don't have access to high-speed broadband. Even in, say, the United States, we saw in 2017, 22 million Americans, about 35% of the nation's rural residents, lacked access to broadband. So even in the States, there's a large contingent of folks that don't have high-speed internet access. You go back a few more years, in 2015, AOL said they still had 2 million dial-up subscribers. In 2015, 2 million dial-up subscribers. So if we are building our sites and we're going too heavy with the CSS, we're going too heavy with the JavaScript, that's going to create an unfortunate and poor experience for individuals that might not have the luxury of high-speed broadband. So keep that in mind. You are all knighted developers of the web. It is your job to go out there and do good and be well. And one of those things that you have to keep in mind are all the different types of users that might want to enjoy your content. It's your responsibility to think about these things. Nobody else will. Cool. Yeah, Fox, Elon Musk with Starlink is testing already in Seattle. I think they're testing it right now. Basically, high-speed broadband, but anywhere, based off of satellites. Game changer. Cool. That's it. One job, please. Boom. Does that explain your website's design? Yes, Sour, it does. So if you go to leonnoel.com, it's very little. It's very minimal. There's very little JavaScript. There's very little CSS. It's just kind of HTML, and that's because of progressive enhancement. It's actually something called Gatsby, which is like React, and it spits out static files. So there's nothing server side basically that's happening. Zay the Beast, thank you for the gifted sub. So it's kind of just the static files, and that's what makes up my entire site, just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm actually going to be reducing the JavaScript that's running on it. I'm getting rid of kind of like Google Analytics and some of the other stuff that's heavier just to speed it up. But yeah. Cool. Yeah, my site loads really, really fast. That's kind of the thing that matters to me. Alrighty, folks. Let's get into some CSS. If you were here for the previous bootcamp, we've learned a little bit of CSS. If you did the reading, you should already know about a little bit of CSS. So hopefully, like what I want class to be is more exploration. I want class to be a time for us to review the hard concepts. I want class to be a time where you can ask questions. Class really shouldn't be the first time you're hearing material. That should be a reading. Alyssa, thank you for the cheers. Give us that style. I love it. Now, see, I've updated the cheering to be ghastly. Like it should be like a ghastly that runs around. I'm not sure why that doesn't work. I'll figure that out later, but wonderful. All right, let's get into some CSS, folks. Matt, I asked the question in the beginning. Yeah, the question was, would you rather invent a new gadget or find a new species, discover a new species? I went with species. Alrighty. All right, important question, folks. Where does CSS go? Do we put it in line with our HTML? Do we put it in the head? Or do we put our CSS in a separate file? Yeah, all right, chat, I see you. We put it in a separate file. Now, we could do all of these. We could take our CSS and put it literally in line with our HTML. We could take our CSS and put it at the top of our HTML file, or we could keep our CSS in a separate file. Why might we want to keep our CSS in a separate file? Like, why would we want our CSS in a separate file, chat? Oh, Rossi with the SOC. Yeah, organization. Keeping it in a separate file adheres to separation of concerns. We're keeping our style in a separate file so we could adhere to that separation of concerns. Look at me rhyming. Now, we can kind of do these other ways. And in fact, there might be some times where it's important that you do these other ways, or that you might skirt the rules to do it these ways. There's one specific time, where you are allowed to have inline style, inline CSS with your HTML. Anyone know where that is, where you could use CSS in line with your HTML? Victoria, bars. Yeah, in email. Most email does not have ability to have external style sheets. And so since you can't have an external style sheet, you're going to put the CSS in line with your HTML. When you get an email and it looks good, that's actually HTML and CSS. That's not some other like fancy language. Granted, it's very old HTML and very old CSS, but that's what it is, right? So if you ever got a really cool looking email, that's actually just HTML and CSS at play. And since there's not an external style sheet, you can put the CSS in line with your HTML. That's the only time you should do that. And we're going to talk about like why that's such a rule as we get further on. We know a little bit more about CSS, but that's the only time you really should do inline styling. Amazon has come out and said for like every 1 second that their page load speed increases, like how long it takes for that site to load, they lose like $1 million a day. And so Amazon has a really strong incentive for that above the fold page to load, like that, like above the fold, like just what you see when the browser first loads, like no scrolling. That's called above the fold. It comes from newspapers where you would unfold the newspaper and the stuff that was above the fold is what you would see first. It's the same thing on Amazon. I would show you Amazon, but y'all don't need to see what I've been buying. And I think we did it before during an office hour. So I was like, let's just open it in incognito. And it still had stuff that I had been looking at. So I'm a little weirded out by that. Cool. So Amazon, to speed up their site, they kind of put together something called Critical Path CSS. And Critical Path CSS is putting a little bit of CSS at the head of your HTML to just help render that initial landing page, initially what you see. Then everything else goes in the CSS file. So if you're at Amazon and every microsecond matters, then maybe you skirt the agreed to standards and violate separation of concerns because you have a very strong reason to do it. So all of these rules and best practices are just that. They're best practices. There's nothing like that's written in blood. It's up to you and your team to adopt them and say these are important to us. So for class, we're going to throw out a lot of best practices, and you might get to a team that says, actually, we do it a little bit differently, but you'll at least have something for you to get started as you're writing your own code. It's good to have well-reasoned best practices, and it's something that you're going to get asked a lot in interviews. One of my students just got asked in an interview today, show me the most difficult piece of code you've ever written. And so they showed them that bit of code and they said, all right, what best practices are at play in this code? And they literally had to walk through their best practices. This was today that they had an interview. So starting early with these best practices, good idea. All right, so if we're going to keep our CSS in a separate file, we need to link to that separate file. And so here's the link tag that goes in our HTML file. It is just a standard HTML tag. It has a rel property that tells us it's a style sheet. And then the href is where the CSS file is, but relative to the HTML file. Oh, I missed a hydrate. Thank you, Alyssa. Who did I miss? Oh, Mac Tay, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. That's some good water. Mo Money King, thank you for the hydrate. Cheers to you. Yo, if I could have made my teacher drink when I was in like 5th grade, like math class would have been lit. Like I would have been, if there were channel points in middle school, it would have been a wrap. We need this. The Beast, thank you for the hydrate. Cheers to you. Y'all trying to make me go to the bathroom. I'm on to you. We got to add that to bingo. Leon runs to the bathroom. Winter, cheers to you. Thanks for the hydrate. Oh, Diego, y'all killing me. Cheers to you. Hey, new, cheers to you. Y'all wildin'. Y'all, you could all be saving up for my OnlyFans, but you just want to make me drink. I appreciate you though. Thank you for being here. Mir with the hydrate. So why didn't we cover CSS today? Well, Leon just drank for 2 hours on stream. Thank you. All right, let's keep going, folks. We put it in a separate file. This link is important. This idea of, hold on one second, folks. My AstroPad's on the wrong one. Sorry, one second. I just gotta kill this app real quick. Alrighty. I just want to be able to draw on the screen, and for some reason it's on a different screen today. Did we get another hydrate? Nash, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. All right. Boom. There we go. Perfect. All right. Sorry. Here we go. Now I can draw. Boom. Look at us go. Steve Madden. Brown boy with the hydrate too. Jeez. Cheers to you. Thank you. Sorry, it took me a second to get the drawing up. We're good. All right, here we go. So this link, this CSS./style, right? What that is where the CSS file is relative to the HTML file, right? So we're starting at the HTML file. Where do we have to go to get the CSS file, right? And so what this is saying is starting at the index.html, you have to go into a CSS folder. And once you're inside the CSS folder, you'll find this file called style.css. So that's why that link is important. It tells you exactly where to go to find that file when you're starting from your HTML. Dinky said early 5-minute break coming. All right. So when we get to our HTML and CSS, I'll show you kind of what I mean by this positioning. So we have some code we're going to work through together today, and I'm going to show you how moving the file into a different folder could affect what that path actually looks like. Memphis, thank you for the hydration. Cheers. I gotta I can set limits. I haven't set limits before. Me and Alyssa have talked about it, but I think we might need to start setting some limits. Only the first 10 people can make me drink. That'd be hilarious. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, we can. Can you drink on stream? I guess you can, right? I think I've seen people do it before. That would be funny, where each hydrate is like a shot. Oh my gosh, I'd be blitzed already. That'd be like a holiday stream. We'll do that one day. All right. Now, we're going to talk through CSS. We're going to talk through the spelling and grammar rules of CSS. And just like when we talked about HTML, HTML had a syntax, like the way we wrote HTML. It revolved around opening and closing tags, right? CSS has its own syntax. It's not opening and closing tags. It has its own bit of syntax that we're going to learn right now. When we're looking at CSS syntax, everything gets broken down into rules. Rules are then broken down into selectors and declaration blocks. Declaration blocks are then broken down into declarations. Declarations are then broken down into property and value pairs. Now, that's a lot at first. At first, you don't really need to know all those words. The slides have all the terminology broken down, so you can come back, actively recall through the slides, and add them to your spaced repetition so you know what things are called. Using the correct vocabulary, super important, right? But for now, it's really just two things. You select the HTML that you want to style, and then you tell it how you want it to be styled. So if we're looking at this rule here, what we are saying is take all of the paragraphs that are in our HTML and make them red. Okay? That's all we're saying here is find all the paragraphs and make them red. And so this is the syntax that you're going to see. You're going to see this selector. You're going to see these curly braces open and close. You're going to see these property value pairs separated by a colon. You're going to see a semicolon at the end. And so as we talk through it, just pay attention to these kind of little details. They're all important for when you're writing rules in CSX. Booty Liquor said, syntax. Dave still gets me. I don't know why it gets me. We need to add that to bingo. All right. So, trust me. Y'all fishing for bingo hints. I love it. So we're going to do this a lot. And then I'm going to ask you to do it. So let's kind of pay attention. Like I said, the slides have everything. So if you want to come back and look at the slides at your own pace, you can. But we're going to look at these individual pieces. So this whole thing is a rule, right? So when you're writing CSS, you're writing rules. And your rules, you're going to have a bunch of them. And each rule dictates how your HTML is going to look in the browser, right? So the CSS is going to target specific elements and make them look a certain way. And so when you're writing CSS, you're writing a bunch of rules, okay? Now, our rules are broken down into two key pieces. The selector, which says, all right, what HTML am I going to target with this rule? And then your declaration block. Your declaration block is everything except for the selector. It opens with a curly brace and it closes with a curly brace. Some people call them figure braces, but I like curly braces. Okay. Now, inside of your declaration block, you have declarations. Each line is a declaration. So here we have two declarations. A declaration is made up of a property, and a property is like how you're like, what are you going to change about the thing that you selected? And then the value is like what you're going to change it to. So what I have said here is that I am going to select all of my paragraphs and I'm going to change the color of them to red. And color is font color, like the actual text color. Then I'm saying on the next line, I'm also going to change its font weight, like how thick it is, and I'm going to make it bold. So you kind of need all of these working in concert for you to actually apply style that you see in the browser. Now, something also really important is that the syntax here is really important. You need to use the colons to separate your properties and values, and you need the semicolon at the end. If you forget the semicolon at the end, which is super common when people are first starting out, if you forget the semicolon at the end, there's a good chance that like your next declaration like won't work. I have seen it where like it skips one or something like that, but eventually all the CSS that comes after will break. So you want to make sure that you have a semicolon and a colon between the property and value, semicolon at the end. Also, don't forget your closing curly brace. What I normally do is I write my selector and then I immediately open and close my curly brace. And that means I won't forget to close my curly brace. So I immediately open the full set and then I go in and put my declarations. Cool. Alrighty. So once again, whole thing is called a rule. In this case, the paragraph is called a selector. It's followed by a set of declarations inside of a declaration block. Selector, declaration block, declaration, declaration, property, value. Okay. And so you can come back through these slides and see all of these in action. All right. So I put them here. So if you want to come back, you have some time. Mo said Anki time. I love it. Exactly. This is definitely something you want in Anki. Vocabulary is important early on. All right. Let's play a little game, shall we? Anvi said, would they ask this in an interview? Possibly. If you're going for a front end interview, they won't ask you. This is very, very basic stuff. So they won't ask you this, but the way that you answer their more intense questions, you'll have to know what you're talking about. So you're like, if you don't know how to say if you don't know, if they say, all right, write a selector that will make something this color, right? Then you would have to know what a selector is. And so you want to be like, all right, well, we put this thing before the curly things, and then we have our lines, right? You want to be able to say, all right, I'm going to write a selector, and then inside of my declaration block, I'm going to write my declarations. You want to be able to have that vocabulary. So while it's not necessarily going to show up like in an interview, how you talk during an interview is important. And so that's kind of where a lot of these, like this vocabulary is important. When I was interviewing front end developers, wouldn't ever ask like something this simple, but I would have a lot of folks that didn't like know what things are called, and it's pretty apparent. It'll come through in an interview. Yeah. Oh no, I gotta learn how to sound like I know what I'm talking about. Yes. When you go into interviews, when you're actually like in the hot seat in an interview, there's two things that they're testing. They're testing whether or not you can solve the challenge in front of you. And the second thing they're testing is your communication and collaboration skills. And so that communication portion is about how do you talk about your code? Because if you can talk well about your code during an interview, you're going to be able to talk well about your code on the job. And so that's kind of why that translates. All right. All right, so let's play a little game here. Chat, What is this? What did I just circle, chat? I like how some people are like, wait, oh, that was too fast. I gotta scroll up and see who said that. Destroyer said bold, Leon. Leon, you circled bold. Yes, I did circle bold. But what is it in terms of the CSS syntax? It is a value. It's not a property and value. Those two are separate things. It is just the value. How about chat? What's this? What did I just circle, chat? A circle. Oh, Kayla out the block. Yes, it's a declaration block. The whole thing is a declaration block. D block. All right. How about this, chat? How about this right here? What's that? What did I just circle? Yes. There you go, chat. Yes, it's a property. I have circled a property. How about this? What's that, chat? What did I just circle? Nice. Yes, it's a selector. Well done. Well done. All right. One last one. How about this? What did I just circle? A declaration. Nice. Well done, everyone. So once again, just to bring it all home, to really hammer in that active recall. Whole thing, a rule. A rule is made up of two big pieces, a selector and a declaration block. Your declaration block is made up of declarations, and your declarations are made up of properties and values. Remember, the selector selects the HTML that you're going to style. Each of your declarations tell how and what you're going to style. Cool. Ninja, what do you know about state property? Oh man, anybody remember those state property like the jackets? Oh, that was my favorite. All the hidden pockets. Whew. That was like middle high school for me right there. Beanie Siegel, top 5 rappers all time. Don't at me. My Ghetto masterpiece. Chat's just dial on. REY. That's hilarious. All right. Now, there's one other thing. Dylon does not approve. There's one other thing that's really important when we first start talking about CSS. The State Property movie is also top 10 movies all time. Don't at me. CSS is really important topic when it comes to CSS. CSS is read top to bottom. So that means you're going to write out your rules. All right. You're going to write out those rules. And those rules are going to be read from top to bottom. The interesting thing about this is that your rules that come above have the ability to be overwritten by the rules that come below. We're going to learn all about those rules later on today, but keep that in mind. The stuff that you write above can be overwritten by the stuff that comes below. Okay. We call this the cascade, right? The cascade. Think of a waterfall. A waterfall cascades down the rocks. Your CSS is going to cascade. That's why we call it CSS. CSS is short for cascading style sheets, meaning that your rules are read from top to bottom, and the rules that come above can be overwritten further down the cascade. All right. I just like doing this. That's my favorite. Alrighty. All y'all just throwing out the most random rappers. I love it. PD Pablo. Man, that's somebody I haven't thought about in a minute. Throw your hands up. Spin around your head like a helicopter. North Carolina. Oh, jeez. Now it's going to be stuck in my head. That's a song that gets stuck in your head for sure. For sure. All right. Let's keep moving, folks. Quick question. Why might you want to link CSS in a separate file, chat? Why might we want to link CSS in a separate file? Yeah, separation of concerns, right? Keeping our CSS in that separate file is going to reinforce the best practice called separation of concerns. If we're keeping our concerns separated, it leads to better organization for our code and the code of our teammates. Well done, folks. Well done. All right. I want to look at some simple styles, and then we are going to take a break. So let's go ahead and learn some simple styles, and then we're going to take a break. And when we come back from the break, we're going to work on some code together. Okay? All right. Here are some of the simplest things that you're probably going to do early on. One of the first things you might start trying to do is to change the color of something. Okay? In CSS, there are 4 major ways of changing the color. You can use the color keyword, like the word red. You can use the hexadecimal value. You can use the RGBA value, or you can use the HSLA value. Let's talk about each of them so you have an idea of what they are and how they work. Now, in CSS, especially with CSS3, you can use color keywords, meaning red, blue, green, even things like Dodgers blue, Royals blue, like words that you wouldn't think would be tied to colors, they're tied to colors. And so you can use all of those colors inside of your CSS, and it kind of just works. You'll get red, you'll get blue. If you are just building a practice site, you're just following along with the class and you want something to get done quick, color keywords are a great option. Why might we not use color keywords all that much in production? Meaning like for a site that's going live, like a site that we're going to have everyone come and see. Yeah, Kickoff's got it. Yeah, Law got it. It's not that custom, right? When I say red, what kind of red do I mean, right? Do I mean more of like a mud red, a crimson red, right? What type of red do I mean? So the color keywords don't really give us control over like the actual very precise color, okay? And so we can use these 3 other options to give us a precise color. Hexadecimal is kind of the original. It's a system for visualizing color. It's kind of the base way that most browsers would render color. And you can learn the rules for how it's applied. I use something called a color picker. And so I have built into Chrome something called eyedropper. And once I click on the eyedropper Chrome extension, I can pick a color from a website. And anywhere I click, it will give me, it's really tiny, I don't know if you can see it, but it'll give me the hexadecimal value, the closest color keyword, the HSL and the RGB values right there, right? And so I use eyedropper for any site that's live. That's how I get the colors really quick. If you are on a Mac, there's a color picker built in. So it is called Digital Color Meter. And so built into a Mac is a digital color meter, and anywhere you go, it'll give you the RGB value over top of your cursor. So if you are looking at colors, you can open the digital color meter on Mac, that'll give it to you. If you're looking at somebody's website, you can use the eyedropper tool. If you're on Windows or GNU Linux, there are other eyedropper tools that you can install. They're on the Windows Store or in the app. You can just download them and have the same experience. So having a color picker is pretty good because eventually you're probably going to work with a designer. Good designers give you the colors, like they'll give you the color values. If you're working with a bad designer like me, I'm a bad designer. So when I give you stuff, I'm going to assume that you have a tool that's going to give you the exact color, right? So I'm going to make you download a tool if you don't have one built in. And so good designers will give you the colors, they'll give you fonts. Designers that aren't so great will just give you an image, and it's up to you to figure out everything. And so when I work with one of those designers, I pull out my trusty digital color meter, grab the exact color, and I use RGB. The reason why I use RGB is because I can think about it pretty like I can visualize all the colors using RGB, because RGB stands for red, green, and blue, and it goes from 0 to 255. Okay, it goes from 0 to 255, and so you can represent pretty much all the colors you can think about using combinations of red, green, and blue. And then the beautiful thing about it is that we have this lovely alpha channel. Okay, the alpha channel gives you a level of transparency on your color. It goes between 0.01 and 1. At 0.01, you're pretty translucent. At 1, you're opaque, meaning that you can't see anything through it. This alpha channel is a godsend. The things and hacks I used to have to do, right, to figure out how to add transparency would blow your mind. It was always a pain in the butt. It was always a pain in the butt when it was like last minute and something you had to do. So alpha channel, beautiful. I love it. Is RGB the most commonly used format across most companies? I don't have the data to support that. I have seen most folks using RGB, but I don't have the data to support most companies. I think you're going to see a mix, and it's going to come down to like the style guide that you're using. Each bigger company has something called a style guide that they adhere to, and in that style guide, you might say we only use hexadecimal, we only use RGB. A lot of folks use hexadecimal because it's kind of what the browsers natively use for the longest time. So you'll see a lot of people use hex because with these colors, believe it or not, there's a speed consideration, right? Like using one type of coloring system might be faster than another. Never optimize for this. But if you're at Amazon and nanoseconds matter, you might think about, all right, how is the browser processing color? How is it finding the color? Do I have to jump from one thing to another, right? And so it's not something you ever have to worry about as you're first learning, but some companies might think through that. Cool. HSLA stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. A lot of folks that come from like a print background, like if you come from like a print design background, you might think in terms of HSLA values and use them. It doesn't make sense to me. I can't think about color that way. I've tried thinking about color this way. It just does not make sense to me. So I don't use it. I use RGBA. So I use RGBA pretty much all the time. I like it. I can think about it. It gives me transparency. I love it. Up to you though. Like I said, this is all preference. Crumb Hustler, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. With spending Jeff Bezos's money, I appreciate that. Thank you. If you have Twitch Prime, you can sub for free and spend Jeff Bezos's money. So I appreciate y'all. As always, the subs, donations, everything that goes to a nonprofit that I teach at during the day. Cool. Love you too, Crumb Hustler. Appreciate you. Bezos bucks. Oh, geez Louise. Believably, thank you. Astronaut, thank you. Trufer24, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. All right. 2 more things, and then we got to break. 2 more things, we got to break. Your username is hilarious. Oh, I saw them come up on in the chat before they popped up on screen. That's interesting. I never saw that before. Thank you all for subbing. I think that's the first time we've had people sub like that quickly in a row that like it was lagging behind. That's really neat. Thank you all for doing that. All right, 2 more things, and we're going to take a break. 2 more things, and we're going to take a break. Font family is another common style, right? So you have chosen color. That's a pretty common first thing. You're going to make colors change, right? Another common, a very common thing you might want to change is like the type of text, right? Is it Helvetica? Is it Source Sans Pro? Is it Roboto, right? You want to figure out like what type of how's the text going to look on my website. So it's a very common thing that you want to change. Google Fonts makes it really easy to use different fonts on your websites, right? And so the yeah, typeface, yep. It makes it really easy for us to pick new fonts to use. And so I'm just going to show you real quick. Pogo, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. So Google Fonts is just fonts.google.com. You can find any font you like. Space Grotesque. Ooh, I like that. That's pretty cool. So I click on Space Grotesque, and this is just fonts.google.com. I'm gonna put it in chat. Jeez Louise. Jelani Days, thank you for the sub. I appreciate all that. All that hard-earned Jeff Bezos money rolling in. Thank you, everybody. All right, there's Google Fonts. So you find the fonts that you like. There are many more fonts that Google Fonts doesn't have, but it's just a really easy way to get started with fonts. And then you click this button up here in the top hand right. You click this button here. You can go ahead, click on it, and then, oh, sorry, you got to select the style first. So select I'm going to select the 300 and the 700. So I'm going to select, boom, boom. And now when I go up to that space in the top hand right, you can see that I can just go ahead and grab this link. I'm going to put this link at the top of my HTML file. And once I put that link at the top of my HTML file, I now have that font and I can use it anywhere on my website, and I can use that font in my CSS. So Google Fonts makes it really easy. You can grab all the different thicknesses or boldnesses or font weights, however you want to talk about it, put that in the top of your HTML inside the head, and now you have access to that font. So here I would have access to the Source Sans Pro font, and I could use it by just saying font family and then the name of the font. Diabolical says Comic Sans everything. Please don't Comic Sans everything. Crumb Hustler, you did start the Bezos revolution. I appreciate you. You'll notice here that we have Source Sans Pro, then I have Helvetica, and then I have Sans Serif. Why do I have 3 different fonts here in the font family? Cat Kava, all caps, fallback. Yes, it's a fallback. Sour Citrus Swift, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a fallback. So if for some reason Google Fonts didn't work and we can't load Source Sans Pro, it'll try Helvetica. If Helvetica doesn't work, it'll try Sans Serif. Every browser you would ever use has Sans Serif built in. So if we can't get these other fonts, it'll fall back to those other ones to backup. Exactly. All right, one last thing. Another common thing you might change right out the gate is the font weight. So the idea being here that you have made something a different color, you've chosen a new font. Well, now you can say how bolded or how thick that font is using the font weight property. Font weight holds the boldness. And you'll notice I'm using the number 700 here. That number 700 comes from the font files that we selected. When I was on Google Fonts, if I didn't select that 700, I wouldn't have the file to be able to use it. Fonts are regular files that you're loading so that you can use that font. If I didn't select the 700, I don't have the ability to make it that thickness or that boldness. And so remember, when you're grabbing your fonts in Google Fonts, you want to make sure you're grabbing the thicknesses and the bolding that you're going to actually use. Don't click all of them, because then it's going to be a larger file for you to download, which is going to take more time, which means your page will slow down. So I really limit it to like 2 or 3 that I know I'm going to use at max. Cool. So some pretty common styles you're going to do: color, font family, font weight. All of those would go into your CSS, of course, selecting your content, and then writing your declarations. Alrighty, folks. We're at about an hour and 10 minutes. So we've been going so far. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. I'm going to go and put the 5-minute timer on. Please stretch, do what you got to do. Grab some water. I'm going to put the tunes on. Go ahead and take your 5 minutes. I'm going to stand up and stretch myself. And then if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer questions. So please take 5 minutes. Come on back when you're done, and we'll get started in 5. All right. Jeezy, good luck walking the dog. Oh, do you hear that? Jeez. Ooh. 3D said, should there be a comma after Helvetica? Yes, there should be. Good eye. Good catch. Spliff said, "You've inspired me to make an obscure wrapper generator as a potential project." I love it. All those hydrates coming back. Sabotage said, "What timer is this?" It's called Smart Timer. It's on the Mac App Store. It's free. It works well. I like it. Leon, do we still need to use normalized CSS? Probably. I still use it. Yeah. I think browsers are kind of all catching up to each other to where it will probably be obsolete eventually. Did you ever talk about how the network? No, we haven't covered that yet. We're going to start talking about that again next week. I think I'm good, Alyssa. I might try and squeak it out. I might have to stop the stream halfway and run, but I'm going to try squeaking it out. Oh, I'm writing it down. Some brown boy, I'm writing it down. I never tried the popcorn with jalapeno. Hold on. I'm putting it on my sticky note. Popcorn jalapeno. There you go. Popcorn jalapeno is now on my sticky note that is on my monitor. I will try it this weekend for sure. Come hell or high water. And if I don't, I'm just going to lie. I'm just going to say, yeah, it was delicious. But I promise you I'm going to try it this weekend. Hey Leon, can you tell your Man U friend his club sucks for me? Oh, Bob's gonna be mad. Bob has a Man U scarf on right now. Oh boy. Is separation of concerns only for making your code more neat, readable? Yeah, it's an organization pattern. Yep, just to keep yourself organized. Kat Kava, absolutely happy to kind of answer those questions. We're gonna do it. I unfortunately I have another Saturday engagement, so I can't do office hours. Typically, office hours would be the time to ask all those questions. But we're gonna get to that stuff next week. We're gonna go in deeper into CSS, and so I think it'll be a good time to kind of bring those questions up. So yes, happy to answer them next week when we get to CSS in a little bit more detail. 615, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Khadija 615, thank you very much. Tony, it's just a hidden file that like helps it kind of stay organized. You don't ever normally see them because you're not opening things up in a text editor, but once you start opening files in text editors, you start seeing kind of the hidden files that are on. Bonnie said, when are you coming out with the merch? I have some of the designs finalized. I'm hoping next week merch drops. We'll see. I hope so. Hopefully next week. The blog post for the computers is done. I was just kind of waiting for the Black Friday deals to come out, so I'll have some time to kind of finish it up and probably post it tomorrow. So tomorrow should be the post for the computers. Do you have an extension on Chrome browser for a countdown? No, I'm using a separate app for that. Alrighty, folks, come on back. Hope you had a good break. Hope you got some stretching in. Hope you got some hydration in. Hopefully you kissed some babies. Come on back, folks. Come on back. All right, I'm going to kill the music here. Boom. Diz, your ballot counting? That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. Alrighty. If we finish the course and do well, would you be able to write recommendations for us on LinkedIn? Yeah, absolutely. Your 3080 came yesterday? That's wild. I've tried so many times to get a 3090. It's just not happening. I get the alerts. I run to my computer and it's sold out before I even like click a button. All right. Let's get into this, folks. Let's get into it. Alrighty. A lot of this is all new. We take the best developer in the world, making $3+ million a year at Google, and they've never touched CSS. They're going to have to look things up. It doesn't matter how good of an engineer you are. It's a new language. You're going to have to look up how things are written and what they're called. The MDN is the best resource for looking these things up, right? That's funny. PETA said Google foo, and the Automod blocked it because he said F you for Google foo. I love it. But yes, it's Google foo. It's the idea of like increasing your ability to Google, right? It's the ability to increase your ability to research. You start to develop a sixth sense for like what you should look for. But please, if there's something you don't know how to do, if there's something that you want to style, like if you say, if I want to do this thing to my content, I want to style it in this way, and you don't know the CSS property to use, that's where the MDN comes into play. I have a cheeky, let me Google that for you here. That's italicized text CSS MDN. That's literally what I would type in if I didn't know how to italicize my text. I would say italicize text CSS MDN, and that would give me that would bring me to the MDN page where I could learn all about how to italicize my text. Okay. Alrighty. That's the big, bold red signs, big flashing signs. I want you to do this. Before you post in the help channels on Discord, I'm going to expect that you have researched like your job depended on it. So go ahead and make sure you're using the MDN. Make sure you're giving these things a good Google, and then hopefully find the answer and use that code. Jono, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Alrighty. All right, let's go ahead and open up our first bit of code today, which is the basic CSS. So if you don't have the materials yet and you would like to follow along, join our Discord, !Discord in the chat. That'll take you to our Discord community. Once you agree to the rules, there's a follow along materials channel where you can grab all the materials that we're going to use for the rest of class. Okay, so go ahead, download those materials, and then come right on back. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the materials on my end as well. And then I'm going to open those materials in my text editor. So I have a folder here that I have my class 3 materials in. Let me show you. So I have this class 3 materials folder. I'm just going to drag this whole folder to my Atom. And now I have Atom open with everything. So I just drag the folder to your text editor and it should open. If dragging is not working, do File, Open on your text editor, and just open the whole folder. And the reason you want to open the whole folder is so you get this lovely tree view. I have this lovely tree view on the left-hand side, and that's what you're going for. You want to have this lovely tree view so you can see all the files. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the basic CSS. So I'm going to click on the HTML file for the basic CSS. So here is the HTML file, or the index.html for that basic CSS. So in the basic CSS folder, there's an index.html. If you look at all of the content, it's going to ask you to style that content in a specific way. Okay. So here it's saying, make this text blue, underlined, and have a gold background. Okay. And it is the H1. So I'm then going to go to my CSS file. Everything's already linked. And in my CSS file, I am going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to target my H1. And then inside the H1, I'm going to write out all the declarations so that I can style this content. So it said, make this text blue. So I can go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and just use the color keyword for now, color blue. It said, make this text underlined. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. What is the property that's going to enable me to underline something, chat? Do you know the property that would help me underline something? Yeah, it's text decoration. Nice. So I'm going to do text decoration, and look at the text editor trying to help me here. I actually try to ignore it when you're first starting out. Like, yes, it's going to help you later on, but for now, you're going to use this time as a chance for spaced repetition. All right. So text decoration, underline. Cool. There we go. So I have my color blue. I have my text decoration underline, and then it said give it a gold background. So let me go ahead and give it a gold background. I'm going to go ahead and do background, and I'm going to do gold. Notice that each of my properties and values are separated by a colon, and each line has that semicolon. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and save. My CSS is saved. I knew that it wasn't saved because there is that blue dot at the top. So now the blue dot is gone. I know I have saved. And I'm going to go back to my HTML file, right click, open in browser. For some reason, that's not working at the moment. So what I'm going to do is another way of doing it is I'm just going to have a new window here. And I'm going to take that HTML file that was in my basic CSS and just drag it. Whoop. There we go. And there you go. It opened up the HTML file. Right. So if you have that open in browser extension, you can right click open in browser. You can drag the HTML file to your browser. Depending on your operating system, you'll be able to just double click on that HTML file. You can go to your browser and say file, open that HTML file, right? So that's the idea here. The idea is that you just want to make sure you're opening the HTML file in the browser. So we're working with the index.html inside the basic CSS folder. That's the HTML file that we're going to open to see all of our changes. Right? If we don't have this open, you won't see your changes. If you don't refresh after you make your changes, you won't see your changes. If you don't save the file before you come here and refresh, you won't see the changes. Okay? So go ahead and do the rest of the text here. We have the H2, this paragraph inside the section, and this H3. We're going to put a little bit of time on the clock. Let's go and put like 4 minutes on the clock. Let's do 5 minutes. We'll put 5 minutes on the clock. Go ahead and complete the CSS for this file. Now, I'm going to keep answering questions, but please don't feel like you have to listen to me right now. I'm not giving away any secrets. Take your full 5 minutes. Come back. Rosalind, you have to join the Discord community, and the files will be inside of our Discord channel called Follow Along Materials. So when you join Discord and agree to our rules, you get the files and the Follow Along Materials. Yep. Thank you, Alyssa. That's the Discord link right there. Yep. So if you want the Open in Browser plugin on Atom, you're going to have to install it. For me to make my text larger in Atom, I did Command +. So Command + is how I make my stuff bigger, but that's because I'm on a Mac. Your operating system is going to dictate how you like magnify things. Funny commentary. Done. Well done. That was quick. Luck Monkey done already. The first line of these show Mac OS X. Is this normal? Not sure what you mean, Daniel. Maybe you could send me a photo. How do you get the text wrap in Atom to have a certain number of characters in a line? Like, how do you get it to text wrap? In Atom, you just go to View. And inside of View, there is a toggle soft wrap option. Yes, when you're working on your CSS, you're going to do it inside of your style.css file. So you're going to look at what needs to be styled, and then you're going to go to your style.css to write out your CSS. Frisian, this is for everyone. Welcome. We are inside the basic CSS folder, dealing with the index.html and the CSS file that is there. Ooh, we got some other folks that are coming in done. Mayan done. Winter done. Kakoff's done. Nice. Luck Monkey, no preferred order. Kind of be consistent is the key here. I use the Open in Browser plugin by Magical Man. Ooh, we got some other folks coming in done already. Well done. Cross, you're going to want to use tags based on the semantic meaning. So you're going to pick your tags based on the reason behind choosing that tag. IDs and classes are just helpers, help you to target certain things. Because you have a bunch of sections. What if you want to target just a few of the sections? What if you want to target a specific section? That's where classes and IDs come in. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight as well. Cutter, you're stuck. No worries. Keep pushing. Still got a minute. Some other folks coming in done. If you're struggling, that's okay. If this is your first time ever writing some CSS, that's okay. If you're struggling and didn't do the reading, now you're going to see why class might be a little bit harder. No Destroyer, we came back from break a little while ago. We're doing the first little bit of lab with 30 seconds left. Don't worry, we're going to go over it. How difficult is it to solo code an RSVP feature? Depends on how much experience you have coding. You're going to use ClearFix in very specific scenarios. We'll get to those next week a little bit. Alrighty, everybody. Come on back. If you're still working, that's okay. Come on back. We're going to go over this together. Alrighty. Let's come on back. Come on back. What's the difference between background and background color? With CSS 3, we got a lot of these properties that can be used for multiple things at one time. And a lot of the hyphenated stuff got taken away. So font color got just color, background color just got just background. So it's kind of like an updated version. Alrighty. So let's keep looking at this. So right now, just so you can see, I have my index.html open. And I have my style.css open that's inside the basic CSS folder, okay? The reason why this style sheet is able to style this content is because the style sheet is linked to the HTML, right? What I am saying is I'm saying to get to my style sheet, you are going to leave the HTML file and you are going to go into the CSS folder. So I'm going to go from the HTML file into the CSS folder. Then inside that CSS folder, you're going to find the style.css. And that's exactly the pattern. It's a little bit easier when we open up the Finder here. Make this a little bit bigger too. So if we're looking, well, let me scroll. There we go. So if we're looking, here is the basic.css folder, right? And that was a little tiny to see. Here's the basic.css folder. Inside of it is an index.html. To go from this index.html to the style.css, I have to go into this CSS folder. There's no way for me to get to this style.css without going into the folder. So let's look at it this way. Here I'm at the root. Here's my HTML. If I want to get to the CSS file, I have to go into this folder. And that's where I see the style.css. Okay. So what I am actually doing here is I am saying from the HTML file, go into the CSS folder and then find the style.css. Okay. That's what we're saying here. Now, if you're using like a code pen or you're using a glitch, they've already linked this stuff for you, so you don't have to worry about it. But you should get comfortable with your text editor and doing these linkings so that you can set up more complicated versions when we get down the line. Alrighty, let's actually look at the next one. For this H2, this header 2, heading 2, make this text purple, bold it, 25 pixels, and have an orange border. So instead of kind of swapping back and forth, I'm just going to copy this real quick. And then I'm going to come to my CSS and I'm going to make a comment. So a comment is just a note for myself or other developers that won't be read by the browser. So I can go ahead and paste this. And then, sorry, I have the pen in my hand. I'm going to highlight it. I was like, I don't know what to do with the pen. I want to hold the pen, but I can't type with hold. I'm going to put the pen down. So you're going to highlight your text. And then for inside of my text editor, I do command /, and that will comment anything. Okay. That will comment anything in HTML. That will comment anything in CSS. It'll comment anything in JavaScript. And so it's just a really handy shortcut to know. The command / is what's going to help make the comment. Okay. So now I have a comment, so I have to go back and take a look. So now I'm going to go to the H2. And in this H2, I'm going to say what it says. So make the text purple. We're going to do color purple. We're going to do font weight bold. We're going to do font size 25 pixels. And we're going to have an orange border. So the border is a little tricky. Okay, so we're going to do border. And then border takes 3 properties. The size, so let's do like 3 pixels. The type, let's say a solid border. And then the color, orange. There we go. So if you didn't know how to do border, chat, I saw a couple of people saying, how do you do border? Chat, if you did not know how to do border, where could you have gone? Where could you have gone, chat? Yes, I love it. Give me the MDNs. Yes. MDN. Love it. Yes, we would go to the MDN. OnlyFans. We would go to the MDN to look this up. I don't know why that made me think of it. There's this scene from the Eric Andre show where he's on the subway and he's in a black suit with Fruit Loops all over him. And he has the cone on. And he walks into the subway car and he says, I didn't get the job at Fruit Loops. My body is your communion. Eat from me. And then pours the Fruit Loops and the milk into the cone and just starts like stumbling through the cart. And when I was like, give me the MDN, that's all I thought about. I don't know why, but I think it's hilarious. Season 5. Check it out. It's hilarious. Rap Warrior Ninja. Highlight of my week when I saw it. Alrighty. So we got this H2. It's color purple. It's font weight bold. It's font size 25 pixels. It's border 3 pixels solid orange. With CSS 3, we don't have to separate out border. Before we used to have to do border hyphen size, border hyphen type, I believe, and border hyphen color. Now we can do it all in one handy dandy line. So that's why we just have border here and not all the others. Right now is my, everybody's just saying, ranch it up. I love it. Is my page saved right now? Is my page saved, chat? No. How can you tell it's not saved? The dot. Exactly. It has the blue dot at the top. You can see the lovely blue dot up here. That's my indicator to know that this is not saved. Whoops. This is my indicator to know it's not saved. And the reason why that's important is because if I come back here and I refresh, I'm like, all right, I'm refreshing, but I'm not seeing the changes happening. If you're ever sitting there like refreshing and nothing's happening, there's a good chance that you forgot to save. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to do Command S as the shortcut to save. You can do Control S as the shortcut on your end to save. And then once it's saved, I can come back now and refresh. I do Command R to refresh on Mac. Control R would work. There are some other shortcuts as well. So I always save and then I refresh. And yes, there are things like live server. There are live reloaders. When you're first starting out, please give me a week or two without using those. Learn it from scratch, learn it well, so that 30 weeks from now, when you're in an interview and somebody asks you to do some code and you don't have live server running, you don't forget something as simple as like how to save and refresh. I have seen it happen. Please get comfortable with it on your own and then use the things to help you. All right. Let's look at the next one. Make this section a width of 50%, height of 200 pixels, a background of gray, a border of black, and the paragraph text white. So once again, I'm just going to copy this. And now that I have it copied, I'm going to go to my CSS and I'm going to make another comment. So I'm just going to highlight this. And then once it's highlighted, I can do my lovely Command // and that Command / is going to make it a comment. Cool. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here and start filling this out. So we're targeting the section. So my selector is going to just be the section. There we go. That's our section. And then I'm going to start writing my declarations here. So my property will be width, colon, and the value will be 50%. All right. Then I'm going to look at my height and alarm bells should be going off. Why are the alarm bells going off? Chat, why should the alarm bells be going off? Yeah, all right. We got our wits about us this evening. Notice here, the text editor is yelling at me. The text editor is like literally yelling right now. It's screaming into the void because it didn't make this white. It's off-white, right? Like it's a very slight difference. This is like a bright white. This is like a grayish off-white. Blah blah blah. It's like spooky. No, it's not just for Halloween, folks. It's the text editor's way. This is like when you see this, the text editor is like, you fucked up, Leon. You fucked up. That's what the text editor is saying right now. And so as soon as I add that semicolon back, I get my color. Okay. So without that, you run the risk of the properties that come, the declarations that come after not loading. So the text editor kind of yells at you a little bit and then you can put it back. All right. Let's go ahead and do a background of gray. Cool. A border of black. I didn't have any specifications, so I'm just going to say, let's do 2 pixels, solid black. Actually, let's make it bigger. Let's make it like 12 pixels, just so we can see it at home. Border black, and then that's it, because the next thing says makes the paragraph text white. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then while we're here, I'm also going to do the paragraph, just because we're already here. Notice how I always, look what I've done here. Look at this. This is super important. Look what I did here. I've already opened and closed my curly braces, right? I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do a Command Z here. I'm gonna type out my P, and then I'm gonna do my curly braces open and close, and I'm gonna break them. Get into that habit. If you get into that habit early, I promise you it's gonna save your butt somewhere down the line, right? It's going to save your butt somewhere down the line, because one of the most common mistakes new developers come to me with, they say, hey, Leon, my code's not working. I'm like, did you save? Did you refresh? And did you make sure all of your curly braces open and closed and that every line has a semicolon at it? 99% of the time when you're first starting out with CSS and you're running into issues, it's one of those 4 things. Okay, so get into the habit. All right, and then it said paragraph text white, so we're going to do color white. All right, let's save this. I'm going to go back to my browser and I am going to refresh. All right, we got a width of 50%, looks good. Height of 200 pixels. There's a gray background. The border is black. The paragraph text is white. Cool. I think we have one more. Let's do the last one. Let's go ahead and grab it. Make this footer have a black background with light green border. The text is a 20 pixel white plus a font family of Roboto. Thank you very much, Mr. Roboto. All right, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to put my comment again so I don't have to kind of fiddle back and forth. I'm going to highlight it, Command / to do the comment, and then I'm going to give myself some room. All right, so let's go ahead and do the footer. Always open it and close it immediately. I'm going to go ahead and give it a black background, so background black. Light green border, so let's go ahead and do border. Light green border, so let's go ahead and let's do 10 pixels, solid. And what did you all use for light green? What did you all use for light green? Everybody's like, light green, duh. I used light green. What are you talking about? Did you use a hexadecimal value? Did you use an RGB value? Nah. You're like, screw it. Light green it is. All right, we'll go with chat. Light green. I love it. Cool. Light green. And all right. And then the other thing we have to do is make the text white plus a font family of Roboto. So the text was in an H3. So let's go ahead and select the H3. H3. And then we're going to do font size 20px. And we're going to go ahead and do a font family. And we're going to do hyphen family. And we're going to do Roboto. And I'm going to give it a fallback of sans serif. So if Roboto doesn't work, sans serif goes through. All right. I love it. Bada 55. That's a cool color. All right. The problem here, however, is what? Chat, what's the problem right now? What's the problem right now? It's saved. Everything's good. Why might this not work? Yeah, I don't have the Roboto font. I don't have the font. So when the browser goes to render this, it's not going to have the Roboto font. And so I need to link the font. So I'm going to go back to Google Fonts and do exactly that. I'm going to go to Google Fonts. Let's go ahead and clear this one. And Roboto is the first one, hence why I chose it, so we don't have to go digging. And I'm just going to grab the regular 400. That's the only one I want. So regular 400 is all I want. Let me get rid of this one. I don't want this one. Remove all. There we go. So I added the Roboto. I just grabbed the base 400. That's it. Like this base 400 one. That's it. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab this link. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go to my HTML. And I'm going to put it before my CSS. Why do you think it's important to put the link to the font before the link to the CSS? Sheena for the win got the bingo. That's awesome. Congrats on the bingo. A lot of people got their bingo. What was it that got you the bingo? What was it that got you the bingo? Nice. Yeah, it needs that font, right? So it can't use the font if it doesn't have the font. And so the cascade is even there across CSS files. So it's going to get the font and then it can use that in the cascade of the actual CSS file. If I put our CSS file before the font, it might not have the font when it goes to use it. All right. Exactly. It needs to be loaded first before we can use it. All right. Looks good. Looks good. Let's go back. Let's give the page a refresh. There we go. Wait, I didn't make it white. That was the other thing I have to do. Color white, or else we won't be able to see the actual text. Cool. There we go. I'm liking this this aesthetic. I like it. Knox, we'll get to linking and importing later on. For now, don't worry about it. Just link for now. We'll get there later on. All right. I'm digging it. This this light green with my black, that's my aesthetic. I like it. All right, let's keep moving, folks. JWAD, shit's hideous. Graphic design is my passion. Blame the nuns. They tried to teach me color theory. It didn't work. Alyssa, thank you for the gifted sub. That's nice of you. Thank you. All right. Now, if we, I'm putting this in my portfolio. Vaughn. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't. The final tier in all caps. How have you not peed yet? Y'all hilarious. I love it. All right. So if we started looking at the code that was in this HTML, we're going to start to see that there were some elements that were inside of other elements, or we might want to start coming to the realization that we've only been selecting things one element at a time. Like we've just been selecting one H1 or one H2. And what we're doing is we're selecting all the H1s and all the H2s. Like if we look at our CSS, there's nothing specific here. When I do this, I am selecting all of the H1s. When I am doing this, I'm selecting all of the H2s. When I do this, I'm selecting all of the sections, all of the paragraphs. There might come a time, hopefully, where you don't want to style everything, but you want to be more specific and target specific elements and style those elements specifically. So we're going to first learn about how to target specific elements based on relationships, right? And then we'll introduce this concept of classes and IDs, but the relationships are important to learn first. And so don't run to using classes and IDs. Start with understanding the relationships, and we'll introduce classes and IDs as we kind of keep going. So we're almost at the 2-hour mark. We'll have another break once we get through this topic, and then we'll kind of hit the home stretch with specificity, and then we'll wrap it up. So we shouldn't hit the full 3 hours today. I wanted to leave you some time in those 3 hours to work on the lab, so know that that's coming soon. Adil, thank you for the hydration. I appreciate you. I was a little thirsty there. Thank you. Cheers to you. One day it's just gonna be a gag. Like the reason why I give you the vocals, that you can hear the water, so you know that I'm really doing this. I'm about this life. I'm actually drinking. I could just have an empty like an empty bottle and be doing that, but no, I promise you, no bamboozle. This is all real. Alrighty. So the first relationship we're going to look at is the first relationship that I am going to look at here is a very simple parent-child relationship. Okay. A very simple parent-child relationship. So here I have a paragraph that is inside of a section. Okay. So what if I wanted to target just that paragraph? not any other paragraph on the page. I wanted to target just that paragraph. Well, I could target it based on its relationship. So here's my selector. Over here, I have a selector, section, right caret, P. Selection, right caret, P. We call this a direct child selector or a direct descendant. What this is saying is find me a paragraph that is the direct descendant of a section. You are the direct descendant of your mother and father. You are a descendant of your grandmother and grandfather, but there's a level in between. You're the direct descendant of your mom and dad, but you are also a descendant of your grandparents. When we're using the right caret, we're only concerned about that immediate first level, your immediate parent, okay? So here, the immediate parent of the paragraph is the section. So this selector works, right? That selector works because that paragraph is directly inside of the section. If I was to wrap this section in, say, a header, I don't know. Let's say we put the section inside of an article. Right? Here's my article open, article close, right? This section is now inside of an article. That paragraph is still a direct child of the section. Nothing changed about the relationship between the paragraph and its section, right? If I was to put the article around the paragraph, however, then the paragraph's relationship to the section changes. So when you see this right caret, we're talking about direct children, one level deep. That's it. Okay. We can also do parent-child, meaning it doesn't matter how many layers deep we go. We can be the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, and it will still work. Okay. So here we have section space P. There's no caret. It's just a space. What you're saying here is find me any paragraph that exists inside of a section. Find me any paragraph that exists inside of a section. That's what you're saying. So what we're looking here for is, it could be a number of paragraphs. It can be paragraphs super, super deep, but any paragraph that exists inside the section. So if we look, this paragraph is definitely inside the section. So this color of red would apply. Chat, what is the paragraph's direct child? In this scenario right here, what is the paragraph's direct child? Oh, no, thank you. Yes, the direct child of the paragraph is the article, right? The section is like the grandparent of the paragraph, right? So in this case, the article is the direct parent of the paragraph, and the section is a grandparent. Right. Oh, did I mess up? What did I say? Let's say this paragraph is the child of the article. You're her child. Oh no. Let me erase your minds. Clear your mind. Past 3 minutes didn't happen. Erase your mind. Debated in chat. All right. Paragraph is the child. The parent of the paragraph is the article. The section is a grandparent of the paragraph. Right? In this case, the paragraph is the direct child of the article. Right? In this case, the article is the direct parent of the paragraph, right? So notice you can see inside. You can see that the paragraph is inside of the article. That's how you can tell very quickly that there is a parent-child relationship. The article in this case is the parent. Its child is the paragraph. What is the direct child of the section? Chat, what was the direct child of the section? Yes, it is the article. The article is the direct child of the section. Cool. There's one other relationship I want to talk about tonight, and that is the sibling relationship. So let's go and take a look at the sibling relationship. A sibling relationship is when you have two elements that are inside of the same parent. So if you have a brother and sister, they came from the same parent, right? So your brother and sister came from your same mom and dad. Same thing here. We have two paragraphs that are both inside of the section. So that means both of those paragraphs are children of the section. And it also means that both of those paragraphs are siblings. Okay? They're siblings. So we have a direct sibling selector. And in this case, the direct sibling selector is a plus sign. Whenever you see this plus sign, you're saying, find me a paragraph whose immediate sibling is a paragraph. So what would happen is that hello YouTube would wind up being read, right? Because it's the only paragraph whose immediate sibling before was another paragraph. If we look at hello Twitch does not have another paragraph. It just doesn't have another one. So it doesn't apply to hello Twitch. Hello YouTube is the only thing that has an immediate sibling that's another paragraph. Yeah, you can say the plus sign is like next to or immediately after. If the second paragraph was indented more, would it change from a sibling to a child? So the indentation has no power here. The indentation has no power here. It's just how we put respect on the name, right? So you put a little respect on the name by doing the indentation. You could have everything flat against the wall and it would still work. The indentation is just for us as developers to see, all right, that's a parent-child relationship, right? It's for us to see that parent-child relationship. If you got rid of it, it still works, right? It has no control, but it enables us to quickly see, all right, parent-child relationship. So it's a best practice. And yes, you can chain as many siblings as you want. You could do plus P, plus P, plus P, plus P, plus P, and it would work all the way down. And we'll get into that more next week, what's a more complicated of these relationships. But for now, let's go ahead and see some of this in action. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the relationship code just so we can see some of these in action. And if this is your first time seeing these, I know this can be an odd concept to kind of have sink in. So follow along, watch what we're doing here, and it'll slowly start to sink in a little bit more. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. I'm going to go ahead and open up the relationship CSS inside of Atom. If you need the materials for today, you can join our Discord community, !Discord, agree to the rules, and in the follow along materials will be all the materials that we use in class. So here's my HTML file, and here's my style.css. Cool. Alrighty. Let's take a look. Let's do an easy one first. If I wanted to make hello yellow, what's my selector? I wanted to make hello yellow, what's my selector? Yeah, Rossi with the first. Oh, you get like a little train next to you. That's cool. I guess that's from the hype train earlier today. That's neat. I think we saw that once before too. Cool. Yeah, that one's easy. It's just an H1, right? What is the H1 a child of? What is the H1 a child of? Yeah, it's a child of the body. Nice. All right. If I wanted to make world and zebra purple, what would be my selector? And be careful, because if we notice, these are both H2s, but there are H2s here and here. So if I just wanted world and zebra to be purple, what would be my selector? Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to go ahead and open up my CSS here. I'm going to do, let's look at it. The relationship is that both of these H2s are inside of a section. Is this H2 inside of a section? If we look, it is. It's a grandparent, but it's definitely inside of a section. So let me show you what happens if I just did section space H2. I know it's not correct, but let's see what that looks like first. Section space H2. Let's do color purple. And let's do font size something so we can see it, like 40 pixels. Cool. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open this in the browser. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a new tab. Remember, you can do open in browser. You can drag a file in. I'm going to drag it in just because we can see it a little bit more visual. And boop, there we go. There's my HTML file. And we can see that world, zebra, and unicorn are all purple, right? World, zebra, and unicorn are purple. But I only want world and zebra, right? So what I'm going to do is, because unicorn is an H2 inside of a section, it's still applying to unicorn. But if we notice, there's an article in the way. That means the H2 is not a direct child of this section. And if I want these two to be styled and not this one, these two are definitely direct children of a section. So I can go up here and I can do right caret. Right? As soon as I do that right caret, now I'm only talking about direct children. All right, direct children. So if I go back and I refresh, there we go, only world and zebra. All right. What if I wanted? Well, it's gonna be tricky. What if I wanted? What if let's do the easy one and then we'll do the tricky one. What if I wanted unicorn and duck to be red? What could I do? What's the selector, chat? Unicorn and duck. I want them to be red. What's the selector? Yeah, article H2. We can use direct, or we can use just regular parent child. Either would work here. So I can go ahead and do article H2, and that would work. And I can do color. Red. Cool. Let me save it. Let me show you in the browser. Cool. Unicorn and duck are now red. Nice. Now here's the tricky one. This is the tricky one. Chat. What if I wanted just unicorn to be gold? I just want unicorn to be gold. What is the selector? Just unicorn. What's the selector? Article right caret H2 won't work by itself because both unicorn and duck are direct children of the article. That would apply to both of them. Ooh, look at chat coming in with the heat. Yes, I can use section, article, and then the H2. Since this article is not in a section, it won't eventually get to this H2. But since this H2 is inside of an article that's then inside of a section, that would target this one specifically. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do section, article, spell it wrong, yeah, article, and H2. So that's saying give me an H2 that's inside of an article, that's inside of a section, and make that color gold. And you can go as deep with these as you want, right? You can go as deep with these as you want. There we go. Unicorn. Only gold. Cool. Well done. What I'm going to ask you to do is after class or as you're reviewing, come back and play with these, try and trick yourself. Try and think of combinations that you didn't think of right away. Using different parents, doing different children, and see if you can practice your parent-child, your direct parent-child, and your sibling selectors. We're going to do lots of practice with these next week. So next week, there's lots of hands-on practice, but I want you to try them on your own. And then next week, we'll get lots more practice. Cool. It is 2:05. I'm going to go back to the slides here, and I'm going to put a timer. Let's take another break. I'm going to put a 5-minute timer on. Go ahead, get some water, hydrate, get up. Please get up, go away, go, please, stretch, do what you got to do, drink some water. Diz, thank you for the hydrate. Cheers to you. And we'll be back in 5 minutes, folks. Take a break. You deserve it. You've been working hard. Take that break. I'll put some mood, some vibes on. There we go. All right. Knox says, you can't tell me what you're doing. You're not my mom. I'm staying. Alyssa, ban him. No, I'm joking. Please don't. All right. I'm going to do a stretch as well. Be right back. It's a nice stretch. Go ahead, get some water, hydrate. Got another couple, probably like another 20, 30 minutes left. Stretch, do what you got to do. Play with the dog. Just move. If you have questions, it's all right. Go ahead, ask questions. I'm going to hang around, answer questions while folks are stretching. Double bingo. Nice. Alrighty. Can I see the CSS code again? Absolutely. Here's the CSS, and I'll, of course, always share it after class as well. So after class, I'll share all this. It'll all be on the Discord and the follow-along materials. Alrighty. Boom. What is your least favorite selector? Some of the pseudo selectors are a little odd for me. There's a pseudo selector called first letter. That seems a little odd. I'm going to say that's my least favorite selector. This not really like a standard selector, but a pseudo selector. All right. Chris, that's okay. No worries. It'll be immediately available. The stream will be immediately available on Twitch. So you can check the VOD, and then it'll be up on YouTube by tomorrow. Pseudo class or pseudo selector. I want to say pseudo selector. Yeah. Is there a best practice for listing properties in the declaration block? Some people do it alphabetically. I like to just be consistent. So whatever you do, just consistently do it. Like if you do height and width first, do height and width first all the time. I do know some people do alphabetically, but it's going to be depending on like what you use more often. And so whatever you use most often, put that at the top and then be consistent. If you haven't gotten up, get up, stretch, move, drink some water. You got a minute and 17 seconds left. Why isn't the music playing? That's weird. Oh, there we go. It just was like, I think it was at the end. Shehal used BR and H in the H1. Is that an abomination? Hell yeah, it is. But like I said, you give the same code to 10 developers, you're going to get 10 different sets of code back. Yeah, the background is shorthand. With CSS3, we got shorthands for a couple big things, and background was one of them. So instead of having to split it up into 3 separate lines, you can do it all in one line now. Cool. 18 seconds, folks. Get one more quick stretch in before you come back. Give me that dry code. I love it. Alrighty, folks. All right. Hope you had a great break. Doobie Dunker, thank you for the hydrate. Cheers to you. Come on back. Come on back. We got a little bit left to go. Some fun stuff coming up. Come on back. Come on back. If you're new to the channel and having some fun learning some CSS, go and give a follow. That way more folks can see us. And next time we go live, which is every Tuesday and Thursday, you can come on back. Alrighty, folks. Hope you had a good stretch. Hope you had a good hydrate. Going to kill the music and we're going to keep on pushing. Cool. Alyssa said, are you going to apply for partner? As soon as I can, I am going to, because I want everyone to have the quality options. And so I have to consistently stream a little bit more. Like I have to have 12 days in 1 month. And so, we might have to do like a party stream to hit the 12 in 1 month. But I think once we're back with the office hours on Saturdays, we'll hit that 12 in a month and we'll be fine. Cool. Yeah, we could do a community goal stream. I think that's a good idea. Code War stream. That'd be fun. We all just Pokemon battle. That's it. That's all we do. We do a bracket and we just do Pokemon battles the whole night. Love it. All right, folks, let's get back to it. If you had a good stretch, hope you had a good stretch. Hope you hydrated. Hope you're ready to lock in. Only a couple more, like one more big thing, and then we're going to call it for the evening. So let's go back to the slides and we're going to hint. Oh, Bugaboo with the stretch. All right, I'm going to stretch real quick. It's not that kind of stream, folks, so you don't get to see, but I'm stretching. Oh, yeah. That's it. There we go. All right. Thank you for the stretch. Got to save up for that OnlyFans if that's the kind of content you're here for. I know some of you are. So save up. Dreams. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Alrighty. So we are going to hint at IDs in classes. I don't want you to use them for this lab or this set of homework. We're going to use classes and IDs starting next week. So for the lab and for the homework this week, please use your nested selectors. And next week we'll start using classes and IDs with reckless abandon. Okay. So let's hint at classes and IDs briefly, and then next week we'll use them way more. IDs are for when you want to target a specific element. One thing and only one thing. Once you give something an ID, that element cannot have another ID, and that ID name cannot be reused anywhere else in your document. Okay? So what you're going to look for here is the idea that if there's something very specific that I want to target, I can use an ID. So here I have the ID of zebra on this paragraph, and I can color it red. Only that paragraph with the ID of zebra will now be red. The way that I denote an ID in my CSS is with the octothorpe and then the ID name. So you're only going to use IDs to target one element and only one element at a time. Once I use that ID name, I cannot use it anywhere else. Okay? The sibling to this are classes. Classes can be reused multiple times. It's a great way of targeting multiple elements at the same time. Each element can have pretty much as many classes as you want. You can also have IDs and classes. So the way you can think about IDs is think of something that's a unique identifier. So in Discord, everyone has a unique name. And that's why you see like the numbers after some folks' names, like it's like Octothorpe and then 0051, because every single person on Discord has a unique name, right? So we all have unique Discord names. That is our ID, right? That's our ID. Now on Discord, you might also have some other tags. You might have a 100 devs one. You might have a class, a house touring, a house hopper, a house Hamilton. If you're Alyssa or a Kayla, you might have a mod one. And so those are classes that describe you on Discord. And you can have as many of them as you want or get. And you can be reused across multiple people. And you could have not only your unique identifier, which is your name, but you can also have a big mix of these classes. Okay? And so the idea here is that IDs target one element uniquely. Classes can target multiple elements. Each element can have as many classes as you pretty much want, and they're going to be reused over and over again. Don't worry about using classes and IDs right now. We're going to learn more about them next week. We're going to put them into practice next week. But for now, I just want you to know about them. If you want to target a class, you do the dot and then the class name. Cool? Alrighty. Lissabot. Now, where all this comes into play is something called specificity. Remember how we said that the CSS is read from top to bottom in the cascade, right? The rules that come above can be overwritten by the rules that come below. There's one very important caveat to the ability for rules that come below overriding rules that come above. And that exception is that the rules that come below must have the same or greater specificity. So if you have a rule that comes further along that you want to override a rule that came above, that rule must have the same or greater level of specificity. What specificity is like a point system. Each tag that you have in your selector, is worth a certain number of points. And the only way your rule can override a rule that came before is if it has the same or greater number of points. All right. Each tag is worth 1 point. Each class is worth 10 points. Each ID is worth 100. And other is worth 1,000. Okay? Tags are just the tags we've been seeing all night. Paragraphs, sections, H1s, H2s. Classes are the things that we can share, right? We can all have the class of 100 devs. Some of us might have the class of Hamilton. Some of us might have the class of mod, right? For each class, you get 10 points. For each ID, your unique identifier, there's only one per document. It's going to target that element uniquely. That's worth 100 points. And then there are others. Others are things that are worth 1,000 points. And some of the common others are inline styles. So like if you put CSS inline with your HTML, that's worth 1,000 points. And that's why we don't do that. Because there's no way we could ever override that in our style sheet, because it would take 1,000 tags to override that. It would take 10 classes to override it. Sorry, 100 classes to override it, or at least 10 IDs to override just one inline style. So we don't do inline styles because it's going to throw off this specificity, and it's going to be really hard to change things that we want to change. The other inline style that you'll see is bang important. And so bang important, what it does is it adds 1,000 points of specificity to one line. So you'll see something like this. Bang important at the end of your CSS declaration. That bang important adds 1,000 points of specificity to this rule, which means it's going to be really, really hard to ever override that rule further down the cascade. So there is only one scenario in which it's okay to use bang important. Chat, do you remember what the only scenario is when it's okay to use bang important and add 1,000 points of specificity to your rule? So you remember it. Yeah. If you're about to present to a client in a minute and you're still not done your CSS and you just need it to work for the client meeting, that's the only time you're allowed to use bang important, right? You throw bang important on there, it works until you get out of a meeting, and then you got to sit down and figure out how to make it work without using the bang important. Okay. Alrighty. Jazzy, go ahead and give it a refresh if it's buffering on you. Alrighty, let's keep pushing. How many points of specificity does this rule have? Or specifically this selector have? How many points of specificity? Whew. Oh, Kayla ready with the heat. Cakeoff's in there too. Bugaboo 2. Nice. Kiss these days. Nice. It's 2, right? We have 2 tags. So we get 1 point for this paragraph and another point for this paragraph. So we get 2 points of specificity. Nice. Whoop. No, it jumped to the end. Sorry about that, folks. All right. How about this one? How many points of specificity does this rule have, chat? Yeah, it's 100 points. Because it's an ID, we get that 100 points of specificity because it's an ID. So this selector has 100 points of specificity. Well done, chat. How many points of specificity does this selector have? Go ahead and give me your guess. Go ahead and throw your guess into chat, please. Yeah. It's 11. 11 points of specificity. We get a lovely 10 points from the class and then another 1 point from the section. Cool. Well done, well done. All right. So that's it tonight, folks. I wanted to introduce some important concepts. We introduced the basics of CSS. We introduced the basics of specificity and nested selectors. I would love for you all to come back through these slides at your own time to make sure you're really solid with all the CSS vocabulary, right? To make sure that you feel comfortable with specificity. And next week, we're going to kick it into overgear with lots of examples to make sure we feel comfortable with CSS. Part of your homework is to work on this lab. We're ending like 30 minutes early. We'll hit probably just at the 2 hours and 30 minutes mark by the time we're done. We're going to end with that 30-minute buffer there for you to start working on the lab. Okay? So when we wrap up, we're going to do a raid like always. Please participate in the raid. Send them some love. Send them some good vibes. Tell them where you're coming from. Give them a follow. Give them some love. And then make sure you do 2 things. Alyssa, thank you for the cheers. Make sure you go ahead and you actively recall all the things we just learned. Ask yourself, What did I just learn? What did we just work through? Go ahead and add things to your spaced repetition tools that you think are important. Go ahead and add them to your spaced repetition, okay? Then you should still have a little bit of time left, okay? You should still have a little bit of time left. If you're time blocking off 3 hours, you should still have a little bit of time left. I want you to work on the lab. So I'm going to show you the lab. Let me go ahead and open the file. Here is the lab. The lab is this very simple photo. So here's the photo. I am playing the role of the bad designer. I'm not giving you colors. I'm not giving you fonts, right? It's up to you to make this using HTML and CSS and get it as close as possible. We're going to review this on Tuesday. So yes, it's homework, but we're going to review this homework together. So this is the lab. Do the raid, actively recall, do your spaced repetition, and then start working on the lab while you still have a little bit of time. Okay? Do the lab while we have a little bit of time. All right. Now, homework before we leave and do the raid. Let me go and talk through the homework real quick. Homework is to finish the lab and then to read all of Learn Layout. So homework is always expected by the end of, so the week later, right? And so this will be due next Thursday. This is Dr. Black. When I did the first run of our original bootcamp, Dr. Black was one of the most influential teachers I ever had. She taught me how to be an educator. She made sure that I made it through my first couple years at Yale. Kicking and screaming, she dragged me through all my hardest classes. She unfortunately recently passed away this summer. And so I wanted to leave this to say thank you to Dr. Black for getting me to where I was and where I'm at now. And all the things I learned about how to be an educator came from her, so I'm leaving her here for forever. Whenever we do this lecture, Dr. Black will always be here. Homework. Please work on the lab. Try to get it done by next Tuesday because we're going to go over it. And then make sure you read all of Learn Layout. Get done that by next Thursday. That's the homework. If you forget, everything is inside of the follow along materials. All of the code that we did together today, I'm going to put in the follow along materials. And what I want to do now is do a raid. All right. We are going to raid Hiccup Interactive. They're one of the first people we raided before. So give me a second to pull up the raid. Here we go. Hey. It was great spending the night with you. It's great seeing you all back. I missed you dearly after the past week. Looking forward to seeing all of you next Tuesday. No office hours this Saturday, but we'll be back to office hours starting next week, and we'll be back here on Tuesday. See you all in the raid. Have a wonderful evening. See you all over there.